Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream. As the keener-eyed amongst you will notice, I have in the virtual studio the delightful, the delectable Karen Bashford, Empowerment Mentor. Now, we've talked many times about all sorts of topics to do with how you deal with the outside world, but one thing we don't tend to talk a lot about, or we haven't as yet talked about, although it should be said that in her podcast, and we'll talk more about, she does talk about this, is about empowering yourself by valuing yourself. So I'm going to start off saying, welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
And as ever, we're going to be focusing on things that you can really use now. You don't have to sit around and mull this over. You can be throwing this into the mix almost immediately. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So today's topic is this: valuing you for health and financial benefits. Now, what in heaven's name do we mean by that?
Well, this came about because I held a group meeting yesterday, and one of the things that come up was how little time is given to yourself. And if you don't look after yourself, who else is going to? And on top of which, if you don't look after yourself, your financial matters will suffer and your health will suffer.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard to be effective as a business leader or an entrepreneur, or even if we're working for someone else, if you're feeling down at the heel because you haven't been looking after yourself, frankly.
Yeah. And valuing yourself is about giving yourself time to step away from work for a start off. And this was what the conversation was all around, was the fact that they prided themselves on how much they spent working. No, there's more to life than work. So that was a real sort of eye-opener for me, on the basis that if you spend all your time working, how do you spend time looking after yourself? How are you valuing your own self if you're always giving to work?
Right. I remember when I was working in corporate, I mean, this is going back a good few years, but I believe there's still elements of this still existing. You tried not to go home until you saw the light in your boss's glass off. And so that meant you could be working till 7, 8, 9 at night, and then you get home, you cook yourself some spaghetti, and then you fall asleep midway through a bowl of it.
And the thing about doing that is you're actually diminishing your ability to make effective decisions, to actually be productive. Right. Why would you want to do that to yourself? Wouldn't it be better to step away, take some rest, and if need be, come back? But generally, you need that time for yourself. But also valuing yourself is about recognizing how much you are worth. Because if you don't recognize how much you're worth, how can you make sufficient money to meet all your needs?
Do you know what? It bears repeating that, but it's quite amazing. If you feel that you're valueless, how can you expect anybody else to hold a value for you?
Yeah. So there's two aspects to valuing yourself: the financial aspect and obviously the health aspect.
Right.
And they both mix, because if you're not valuing yourself financially, you won't necessarily believe that you can make the money and have the money that you want, and consequently your health suffers. But also you're not going to bother to spend the money that you need to maintain your health.
Well, yes, there is that, isn't there? You won't bother looking into, for instance, basic supplementation or whether or not you need to eat more proteins or more carbs or less carbs or whatever, because you won't care. Yeah. And if you won't care, it will show that you don't care. And if it shows you don't care, why should anybody else care? It's
a big cycle. Everything in life connects. And the more we start to realize that we are a being that connects to everything around us, and everything we put on us and in us, the better it will be for you personally, but everyone else as well. Because more you are aware of how you're feeling and the value you give to yourself, the more people respond back to you in a positive way. So they feel better.
I don't know why it is today, but suddenly we've become toast of the town on Twitter. So to all you Twitterati out there, or whatever, or Xerati, I don't know what it's called these days. Thank you very much for watching. Today's topics, I just saw them pop on, so I thought I'd say today's topic is valuing you for health and financial benefits. And if you haven't seen her before, this is the incredible Karen Bashford, an empowerment mentor that does everything from obvious solutions to slightly less obvious solution to exactly that. Sorry to interrupt you, Karen.
Oh, that's fine, not a problem. I'm grateful for them attending, so thank you.
Not at all.
Yeah.
All right, good. So are there any steps that we can take easily? I'm not expecting you to fix everything in one podcast, but is there anything that we can doing? Is there any daily practice? Is there something we can employ in our lives to try and stop getting to the point whereby effectively we don't value ourselves anymore?
My recommendation, as I gave last night to the ladies that I was working with, put time in your diary. Treat yourself as if you're an actual client.
Oh, well, you see, it makes it more obvious when you say it like that. So if you put yourself down as an actual client and pretend that you're actually dealing there, of course you're going to give them more time.
Why not? You're not going to say to a client, sorry, I can't deal with you. I've still got this to do.
No, exactly not. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the bigger step. And recognize that even 10 minutes out from working will make a difference.
Right.
So go for a walk or go and get a coffee instead of just sitting at your desk. Do something different, because then you're recognizing that you're worthy of giving time to yourself instead of the laptop and all the stuff that still needs doing. But when you come back, you'll probably sit down and get a lot more done because you're refreshed.
Exactly. Do you know what? Time. Just a little bit of time can help all ills, I think. A little bit, giving yourself a bit of time, whether it's a bit of time to think or a bit of time to act, or maybe even a pause before you do something which maybe later you regret. All of that time, that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, and we're so fearful of not having enough time. We have to cram so much in that we forget that sometimes as human beings, we need to stop and just give ourselves a break. And that's not a break as in going on holiday or something like that necessarily. It can be a physical 20 minutes outside the office enjoying some sunshine when we get some. But
yes, I was going to say, what is that thing? I remember it being something orange in the sky. Yeah.
But just simple things like that, or going and sitting somewhere where there's woodland around you, even if it's raining, have a brolly up and just enjoy being outside in nature. Nature in itself will revitalize you anyway, because we connect with nature. So anything to just give yourself that break.
I mean, I look, as you know, I've got a new puppy, and I was feeling down in the dumps this morning because I woke up at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and it was depressing outside, slightly drizzly, frankly dark and grey, and I got the dog on the lead, bouncing around. We go down walks through a nearby woods, and actually crunching through that and hearing the birds and seeing the dog sniffing around, and I felt a lot better just by being in the midst of nature, just by taking myself out of that.
It makes all the difference. It really, really does. But even if you can't get outside and do that, what do you enjoy? If you've got a book, you can read a chapter of a book even.
Right.
Just to take your mind off of work, take your mind off of everything that's going on in your life and escape into a book. Because this is all about escaping from your current situation for very short space of time, to be able to just say to yourself, I am important.
But you know, the interesting thing, Karen, I find is that when we were younger, we were mustn't escape. You must always face everything head on, deal with it now. But what we're effectively saying here, what you're saying here is sometimes you need to escape just for a brief period of time, just so you can get your ducks in a row, just so you can feel yourself again, so you can value yourself, right?
Yeah. And if you consider, we were always told we had to deal with everything now,
Yes.
because we were under the impression that time was too precious not to give ourselves any time. But time is too precious not to give ourselves time.
Yeah, I think that the rejuvenation effect of a timeout or a distraction or dare I say a Sudoku, or chat to a friend, or a cup of tea, or reading the newspaper just for 15 minutes away from the nuttiness. Perhaps reading a newspaper is not a good idea, but anyway, but you
Depends
understand
what the newspaper is.
well, exactly. If it's the back page of the Beano, probably all right. But my point is, we're moving away from this idea that everything must be dealt with now, that you can't give yourself any time or space to relax, that you have to go through life like a mainspring tightened up to its maximum point. And we're getting more to the point that you can get through life with more grace, with more ease, with more satisfaction, so that you feel like you've actually enjoyed your life, rather than you getting towards the end of it, looking back and thinking, well, I spent the whole time running.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is we're very conscious of mental health issues nowadays, and giving yourself time out will help your mental health. You know, if you never stop, how is your brain ever going to say, I can breathe, I can rest, I can stop thinking about all these things that I think I need to be thinking about? And your body, your brain, you yourself need to rest and relax and stop worrying, because we spend so much time worrying about stuff nowadays.
Right. It's about giving yourself a bit of grace, isn't it? It's allowing yourself the ability to breathe in and out. Well, no, it's a good thing. Look, I think until the moment I met you, actually, I used to. My mind was always about focus on next thing. I focus, fire, push, and now I actually give myself a half an hour break. I have a cup of tea, play with the dog, whatever it is, so that I give my body a point to go. I think that does make all the difference. I want to draw people's attention to something that you're doing that I help you with, but I'm very proud to be doing exactly that. And that is the Empowered Life Leaders podcast. So I've got the words out, which is this. But if that's not enough for you, I've got a little QR code which I am going to put up on the screen. It says underneath Empowered Life Leaders podcast. I know it's very small.
Actually, it's the Empowered Women Life Leaders.
Gosh,
sorry about that.
You got that wrong. Oh my giddy aunt. Giddy aunt. No, it's all right. Well, it will get you to the same place. In fact, I can amend this one quickly and easy. The Empowered Women
Life Leaders.
There we go. I've corrected it. There we go. You see, this is what happens when you do stuff that's live, but it's fine. So the Empowered Women Life Leaders podcast. So because we've done quite a few of them, haven't we now?
Yes, I think we're coming up to 9 now. So yeah.
Right. So can you tell why did you start them? What is their purpose? And what is next on the list?
Right. Well, the purpose of them is to share with women what they don't necessarily realize about themselves, or the impact certain things are having on their lives. And the women that I interview, and I have interviewed a few men, but not many, but it's a case of they have been through life experiences, but they're now running businesses that are relevant, that share the fact that there is so much that we can help ourselves with if only we know about it. So a prime example is a lady who's a book writer, and she helps you write your book. But it's about the cathartic healing of words.
Right.
Because we don't realize how our words impact us so much.
Absolutely.
So
Words
I
are
interviewed
important.
her. So she was very relevant. For photography, I've interviewed a photographer who took my photos, and it was an interesting journey to realize that photographs actually can give you confidence.
Yeah, I can believe that.
How many women will look at their photo and go, oh my God, that's awful?
Too many.
Yeah. So it's getting them to recognize that even though we think we're not good enough, we are. And why not claim it?
So, what was last week's one? Can you?
Last week was your relationship with money. I do alternate weeks where I interview somebody and then I share something about my life or what I do now or what I've learnt. And last week was very much about the money personalities. We have I've created 9 money personalities based on my experience working in a bank, of lending money and how people behaved with their money. And it goes from being an ostrich up to being a meerkat or a snake. You've got a rabbit, you have the cat, you've got the cuckoo, hamster, and my favorite, I think, is what I would suggest everyone goes for, is the squirrel, because it's got the balance between spending, saving, and investment, which is basically how we should be living with our money and our relationship with money. But yeah, it's all about money and your relationship with money and your behavior with money.
Right. And do you think that this is more important now than perhaps it has been in many years?
Because if you don't know how to behave with money, you don't stand a chance. You really don't. If you're using money in a way that's not serving you, that's causing you more pain, that's not going to lead to a good life.
Right. It's absolutely true. Do you know what? When you think about it, absolutely true. Right. I've finally got the logo fixed. There we go.
Yay.
There we go. So if you follow that QR code or follow that link down the bottom, you can catch up. And I would say to all of you that have been joining with us now and previously, there's a whole host of them there. Do have a listen, and there's more to come. And if you are interested in interacting with Karen, because she'd be more than happy to help you start your wellness journey, perhaps the best place to go would be the website. That's KarenBashford.com. Let's start a discussion and start your wellness journey today. Thank you so much for spending time with me, Karen. Always a pleasure. I learn stuff every time as well. Don't think I'm just here as a parrot. I'm actually learning as I go. But until next time, all of you watching, try and keep your feet on the ground. Try and stay positive. There's lots of great stuff yet to come. You can't tell what's going to happen in the future. So keep reaching for the stars and look after your mental health. Bye-bye now.
Bye.